Budget 2025 just got announced and it's going to impact all Malaysians. So in today's video, I'll be going through some of the more important policies that I think will impact the most Malaysians, and I'll also share my thoughts on it. Let's get to it. In terms of size, this will be Malaysia's largest ever budget. I feel like I say this every single year whenever I make this video, but yeah, this year it's going to come in at 421 billion ringgit. In terms of allocation, the Education Ministry will get the most money, followed by the Health Ministry. So I think the Education Ministry is getting the highest allocation it has ever gotten in history. But yeah, I guess these are at least two things that we should be investing our money in, so we have our priorities right. But despite the higher budget spend, despite it being at all-time highs, our fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP is actually going to be lower compared to previous years. So for those of you guys who don't know, a fiscal deficit is when a government spends more than they're expecting to make in revenue. So yeah, it's not just us individuals, who have spending problems, who spend way too much of our money when we're not actually making that much. Governments also face the same problems, and it's not just the Malaysian government, it's basically many or most governments out there. Anyway, despite projecting to spend more in 2025, our fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP is going to reduce to minus 3.8% compared to minus 4.3% in 2024. So this is mainly because we're projecting higher government revenue, which I'll talk more about later on. Last thing about our economy before I go on to the fun stuff, they also talked about our GDP growth forecast for next year, and it's going to come in at anywhere between 4.5 to 5.5%, which is a good thing. It means that Malaysia's economy growth is going to carry on. Moving on, let's talk about all things taxes. So first of all, there will not be a re-implementation of GST just yet. I think some people were thinking that maybe the government will bring back GST at a lower rate, and it's not actually a bad thing. I think GST is actually better than SST, but yeah, I guess we're just not ready for it. Instead, they will expand the scope of SST to include certain services as well as some more premium food items. So it's funny because in the budget speech itself, they actually called out salmon and avocado. So for those of you guys who enjoy your salmon steaks and your avocado and toast, maybe it's time for you guys to start reducing it a bit because it will be more expensive. Next up, the government also introduced an all-new dividend tax of 2%. So before any of you guys with your dividend investing portfolio start to panic, relax, this is only for dividends exceeding 100,000 ringgit in a year. I don't know if any of you guys are secretly ballers or anything like that, but this is mainly targeting, at least to me, the really rich people. I mean, for you to get that amount of dividends, let's say you have a 5% dividend yield, you would need a portfolio of 2 million ringgit just to get 100,000, and that isn't even taxable. Only anything above 100,000 ringgit will be taxable. So yeah, it's mainly targeting those rich people. This will also exclude dividends from both EPF and Amanah Saham, so if you have large amounts there, you don't have to worry either. This is to me okay, I guess. I'm not really sure how this will impact our local stock market, so we'll have to wait and see. But to me, the government isn't really targeting individuals who, invest in the local stock market for dividends. This is mainly targeted towards business owners who, instead of taking a salary, they just pay themselves in dividends from their own company. Next up, there'll also be an increase in taxes for sugary drinks. So currently, we already have that. It's currently at 50 cents per litre. Starting from 2025, it will be increased to 90 cents. This to me is a good thing because of course sugar is never good, but if any of you guys enjoy things like Coke, then yeah, it's going to be more expensive next year. The only odd thing to me is that our government is actually currently subsidizing sugar prices. So yeah, we are spending money on sugar subsidies, but then on the other hand, we're taxing people for taking sugary drinks. So yeah, a bit of a conflict. The final thing on taxes is of course our personal income tax reliefs, but for next year, there won't be any major changes. One of the changes that they did make though is that the PRS tax deduction of 3,000 ringgit per year will be extended until 2030. So that is good news for those of you guys who like to invest for your future. Good thing you will still get your tax reliefs. They're also increasing the amount of relief, I guess, you can claim for medical insurance. So previously it was 3,000 ringgit. From next year onwards, it will be 4,000 ringgit. Personally, I don't think I spend that much in a year anyway, but I know that some people do. So yeah, good news. You will be getting more tax reliefs for this. On the SSPN tax relief of 8,000 ringgit for parents, this will be extended until 2027. I think this to me is one of the most no-brainer tax reliefs to go for. It is quite a bit of money and you can do it easily. So yeah, good news for parents. Finally, there will be a new tax relief for housing loan interest. So this is for anyone who buys a house from 2025 onwards. If your house is less than 500,000 ringgit, your tax relief will be up to 7,000 ringgit a year. If your house is less than 750,000 ringgit, then it'll be up to 5,000 ringgit a year. So yeah, again, this is good for people who are thinking of buying their first house. Good news for me because I was just about to buy a new house, but now seeing this, I'm going to delay it to next year just to make sure I'm eligible. Now, let's move on to subsidies and welfare, and of course, the headline will be petrol subsidies. So after removing the diesel subsidies, I think earlier this year, right? Now it's time for them to implement the petrol subsidy rationalization, and they're expecting it to come by the middle of 2025. We don't have a lot of details yet, but apparently only 15% of the population will be impacted by this. The problem with this is that, even though we say, oh, only the top 15% will, be impacted, but according to the Department of Statistics, the top 15% of earners in Malaysia household is 13,000 ringgit on average across our whole country. So yeah, if you are someone who earns 6,500 ringgit and your wife or husband also earns 6,500 ringgit, then you're already in the T15 group, which means that you won't be eligible for fuel subsidies. That's not a lot of money, right? You're not earning that much money. 13,000 ringgit a month, I guess to some it's a lot, but getting fuel subsidies removed for earning that much, it seems a bit harsh. So in my opinion, this is a really tricky situation. On one hand, I do believe that we need to eventually remove petrol subsidies because we are spending a lot of money on it and we need to, channel this money elsewhere. But on the other hand, top 15%, like I said, you only earn 13,000 ringgit as a household. It's not that much money, to have your fuel subsidies removed. So it will be painful for those people. And we can't say, oh, instead of targeting people who earn 13,000 ringgit, why don't we target people who earn 25,000 ringgit? Let's say. We can't really do that because if we increase this limit, it means that a smaller percentage of Malaysians will be impacted, which means that the impact of this fuel subsidy rationalization, it won't be as huge anymore. But like I said, a lot of things are still to be clarified, including how they're going to implement this. So we'll just have to wait and see. Overall, the government expects to save around 8 billion ringgit from removing fuel subsidies for the top 15% of Malaysians. But they still have to spend 12 billion ringgit to support the other 85%. But it's still kind of crazy to me that just by removing fuel subsidies from the top 15%, you already get to save 40% in costs. Next up, minimum wage. We're increasing this by 200 to 1,700 ringgit. So I know a lot of people have been calling for this, and I know that some people are even saying this is not enough. It should be 2,000 ringgit a month. To me, again, this is a tricky situation. Raising minimum wage by too much and too fast, it will actually have a very big impact on many small businesses, especially who rely on these low-skilled workers. And some people might argue, even though they're low-skilled, if you can't afford to pay them 2,000 ringgit a month, then maybe you should just shut down your business. Well, if you keep asking them to do that, there'll be less businesses out there and more people will be unemployed, which is again another thing that we don't want. Something that you should know though is that even though the minimum wage is 1,700 ringgit, if you are a fresh graduate with a diploma or a degree, then you shouldn't be paid that much. This is mainly for people who are in low-skilled jobs that doesn't require a lot of education. Like I said, if you're someone with a degree and you're educated and you have a skill, you should be demanding way more than that because, things aren't so easy anymore, costs are going up. We do need higher wages overall. Finally, there will also be an increase in the Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah as well as the Sumbangan Asas Rahmah. I think that's what it's called, STR and SAR. Basically, they're just allocating a bigger budget towards it, which means that in 2025, there will be more recipients. So I think in 2024, it was 700,000 people. In 2025, it's going to be 4.1 million people. So that's all the things that I found out to be important from Budget 2025. Overall, I think it's okay. Nothing crazy, nothing that is crazily out of the expectations. I do think that this budget will be a bit painful for those people who are high income earners, who are maybe not that rich yet. And honestly speaking, I think I will fall under this category. But to me, I don't mind paying higher taxes. I don't mind my subsidies being removed as long as I know that this money is being put to good use. So I guess only time will tell. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of Budget 2025. What are the most important things you think that came out of it? And what do you like? What do you not like? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video to the end, guys. Give me a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.